If you've ever been told you need better time management or someone handed you a planner like that was going to fix everything, this video is for you. Because executive functioning struggles aren't a character flaw. They're not about intelligence and trying harder. That's not the answer. Executive functioning skills are super nuanced and context specific, and knowing what you struggle with is just the beginning. The real magic happens when you understand why those struggles show up for you and how to build the right supports around them. Hi, I'm Amy. I'm a college ADHD coach and executive functioning specialist. Executive functioning assessments can tell you what's going wrong. Poor planning, weak task initiation, difficulty with time awareness, that's helpful, but it's also surface level. Two people can score the same on those assessments, but need completely different supports. One-size-fits-all tools don't actually work for brains that function in wildly different ways. And yet, so often, people are handed a single system, like a bullet journal or a time blocking calendar, as if that will work for everyone. It won't. Same skills, different why is the reason. So I've worked with a student who failed multiple classes, not because she didn't do the work, but because she didn't turn it in. Her executive functioning assessment said that she struggled with planning and task initiation. But when I did an actual thorough assessment, we had a conversation, and I used some behavior analytic skills, what we learned was that she had completed most of the assignments. The issue wasn't her planning, it was her perfectionism. She kept saying, I'll just revise this a little more before I turn it in to make it better. But a little more turned into her completely missing the deadline and missing the grade and the points available altogether. Compare that to a student who forgets the assignment entirely exists or procrastinates because it just feels overwhelming. They would have the same executive functioning assessment score with totally different root causes. And that root cause is the everything. And that's the why. And to find out the why, you need a coach or a specialist who has the expertise to help you figure out the why, to understand human behavior enough to help you break down all those layers so you can actually figure out what to target. I like to think of executive functioning as the board of directors of your brain. They don't do the actual work, but they coordinate everything behind the scenes so that that work can happen. Planning, organizing, remembering what matters, filtering distractions, those aren't one skill. They're a whole system working in the background to keep you moving forward. But when one part of the board checks out, maybe your working memory goes offline or your task initiation is faltering, it throws everything off. And it's not always the skill that you think. A lot of people come to me saying, I just can't pay attention. But often, the real issue in attention is working memory. If your brain can't hold information for long enough to act on it, it feels like an attention problem. But the strategy to fix it is completely different. That's why, as behavior analysts, we don't just look at the behavior, we look at the function. We ask, what's really going on here? And we look at the context and the environment. Is your environment supporting your executive functioning skills, or is it sabotaging it? Same challenge, different routes. Let's say two students miss deadlines. One does it because they forget. The other does it because they freeze from perfectionism. On paper, it looks like the same executive functioning skills and the same deficits. Poor time management, but underneath, completely different whys. So that means that they need completely different hows, different supports, and different strategies. They need different coaching. So that's what we do. We help peel back all of these layers and figure out the real cause so that we can match the right solution to the right problem. And if someone's engaging in really negative self-talk, calling themselves lazy, stupid, broken, those are huge red flags because shame shuts down that whole board of directors. What we know from behavioral science is that punishment suppresses all behaviors, positive and negative. So that shame really isn't helping us any. So why we have to match the why is for success. You've probably tried planners. You might have tried fidgets. You might have tried fancy alarm clocks, but they're not solving your problem because they just become clutter. The truth is, tools only work when they match the function of your actual struggle or your deficit. That's one reason why AI can be so powerful, but only if it's used well with thorough intention and an understanding of how to use it. That's another thing we help our students with. We want to pair it with real insight and real knowledge of what we're trying to get it to do for us. In our coaching work, we help students match tools to their actual barriers. Sometimes that means changing the system. Other times it means changing the environment. One of my favorite examples is a student of mine kept missing his labs because he forgot his lab coat. So I suggested, why not ask the professor if you could leave the lab coat in the closet in the classroom? The professor loved the idea and let the entire class do it. It was a very simple change and a huge result. His attendance in his lab classes increased significantly. So that's the power of understanding why. We also think that self-compassion and what to do next is super interlinked. If you take one thing from this video, let it be that your executive functioning struggles do not define your intelligence. They don't mean you're lazy. They mean that your brain works differently. And with the right support, you can work with it, not against it. We use encouragement, we talk about self-compassion, and we remind students that you are important enough to figure this out for yourself. The brain that you have now is the brain that you get to keep for the rest of your life. So it makes sense to invest in learning how to support it. If this video spoke to you, I invite you to take the next step. We are running several workshops right now that go deeper into this exact process. We also offer one-to-one coaching for college students who need real personalized support. So you could either book an intake call or you could learn more below, because this is only the beginning. Let's figure out your why so that we can figure out the hows that will help you be the person, the student, the professional that you want to be. This is Amy with Next Step Navigators, and I'll see you all next time.